The moment you stop chasing is the moment something inside her wakes up. Not fear, not regret, but respect. And that changes everything. Listen closely, because this is not about manipulation, punishment, or playing games. This is about a psychological shift that happens when a man chooses peace over pursuit. Most men believe walking away means losing. Female psychology reads it very differently. When you stay calm, grounded, and silent instead of pleading, arguing, or over-explaining, you stop being predictable. And unpredictability, when rooted in self-respect, creates gravity. A woman is biologically and emotionally attuned to emotional movement. When a man is constantly available, constantly explaining, constantly trying to fix things, she feels in control of the emotional frame, not maliciously, not consciously, but instinctively. Control removes mystery, mystery removes attraction, and attraction without respect collapses into comfort or indifference. When you walk away peacefully, something subtle happens in her nervous system. There is no dramatic exit, no slammed doors, no angry texts. That absence of chaos forces her mind to fill the silence. And what she fills it with is not relief, it's questions. Why didn't he fight? Why didn't he beg? Why does he seem okay without me? These questions create cognitive dissonance because they clash with the version of you she thought she understood. Women don't respect men who tolerate emotional imbalance. They respect men who recognize it and remove themselves without bitterness. Peaceful withdrawal signals emotional maturity, boundaries, and self-worth. Those traits register as strength. And strength in female psychology is safety. Not loud safety, quiet, grounded safety. The mistake most men make is assuming that explaining their pain will make her understand their value. But value is not negotiated, it's demonstrated. When you walk away calmly, you communicate that your emotional world is not dependent on her validation. That you choose her, but you don't need her to survive. This distinction is everything. A woman may say she wants reassurance, but what she responds to is stability. Stability is shown when a man does not abandon himself to keep someone else comfortable. When you stay in situations that drain you, she doesn't feel loved. She feels burdened. When you leave with dignity, she feels the weight of your absence because it contrasts with your presence. This is why walking away peacefully often triggers delayed respect. Not immediate longing, not instant regret, but reflection. She replays interactions. She notices the moments you were solid when she was uncertain. She realizes you weren't controlled by impulse. You had options, and options are attractive. Understand this clearly. Walking away is not about making her chase you. It's about realigning your life with your values. When a man chooses himself without resentment, he becomes centered. Centered men don't beg for attention. Attention gravitates toward them. And whether she comes back or not becomes irrelevant, because the respect you gain is not just hers, it's your own. And once a woman senses that you respect yourself enough to leave without drama, her perception of you permanently changes. Even if the relationship ends, the imprint remains. You were the man who didn't break. You were the man who chose peace. And peace is power. That power is felt on a level deeper than logic. It rewrites how she categorizes you among men. You are no longer filed under reactions, arguments, or emotional volatility. You are remembered as composure, as restraint, as a man who did not chase closure because he was closure. That memory lingers longer than promises. It shapes how she treats the next man and how she remembers you years later. Walking away peacefully is not passive. It is an active declaration that your time, energy, and emotional health are sacred. And nothing commands respect like a man who knows when to leave quietly, confidently. What most men don't realize is that respect is not built during comfort. It's built during contrast. And walking away peacefully creates the sharpest contrast a woman can feel. One moment you were present, attentive, emotionally available. The next, you are gone, not angry, not cold, just absent. That contrast forces her subconscious to reassess your position in her life. Female psychology is deeply responsive to emotional leadership. A woman is constantly, often unconsciously, asking one question: who is leading the emotional direction here? When a man reacts to her moods, her doubts, her mixed signals, he hands that leadership over. But when he observes, decides, and exits calmly, he takes it back. Leadership doesn't shout, it moves. When you walk away without hostility, you deny her something her mind expects: emotional turbulence. No arguments to justify her doubts, no dramatic reactions to validate her confusion, no mess to clean up emotionally. This absence of chaos creates discomfort, not because you hurt her, but because you broke the familiar pattern. And the human mind hates unfinished emotional loops. This is where respect begins to form. Respect grows when a woman realizes she cannot provoke you into losing yourself, that her uncertainty does not control your identity, that you are not fighting to be chosen, you are choosing where to stand. This realization elevates you from participant to reference point. She starts measuring other men against your composure. Men often underestimate how deeply women test emotional stability, not out of cruelty, but instinct. She needs to know, if life gets hard, will he collapse or will he remain grounded? Walking away peacefully answers that question more loudly than staying and struggling. It says, I don't need conflict to feel important. I don't need validation to feel whole. There's also something else happening beneath the surface. When you leave without resentment, you force her to sit with her own emotions. She can't blame your anger. She can't label you as toxic or dramatic. She has to confront her role honestly, and self-reflection is uncomfortable. Many women don't experience it until a man removes himself with dignity. This is why peaceful detachment often leads to delayed emotional response. At first, she may seem fine, even relieved. But later, when the noise settles, your absence becomes loud. She notices the lack of pressure, the lack of expectation, and paradoxically, the lack of you trying to be enough makes you feel like more. Understand this clearly. Women don't respect men who stay out of fear of loss. They respect men who leave because they understand their worth. Fear smells like dependency. Worth smells like choice. When you walk away calmly, you signal abundance, not necessarily of women, but of self. You are not empty without her. You are complete with or without anyone. This shifts the power dynamic permanently. Even if she never reaches out again, you have stepped into a higher psychological position. You are no longer asking to be valued. You are valuing yourself. And that internal shift changes how you show up everywhere, in your voice, your posture, your decisions. Women sense this immediately. Walking away peacefully also protects something most men sacrifice too easily: their future self. The man you become after choosing peace is stronger, clearer, and more selective. You no longer tolerate emotional confusion disguised as connection. And when a woman sees that you don't cling to uncertainty, she associates you with clarity. Clarity is rare, and rare things are respected. This is why men who master peaceful withdrawal don't just attract one woman, they change how women respond to them in general. Because they are no longer negotiating their value through effort. They are expressing it through boundaries. And boundaries, when enforced without anger, are one of the most attractive psychological traits a man can possess. Here is the truth most men are never told. A woman's respect is tied less to how much you give and more to what you are willing to walk away from. When you stay in situations that diminish you, she doesn't feel chosen. She feels that you have no choice. And nothing erodes respect faster than a man who stays because he's afraid to leave. Female psychology is highly sensitive to self-betrayal. Even when a woman benefits from it, she feels it. When you tolerate mixed signals, emotional neglect, or imbalance, her subconscious reads it as weakness, not kindness. Not because you lack value, but because you are not enforcing it. Walking away peacefully corrects that imbalance instantly. There is something profoundly unsettling, yet deeply attractive, about a man who exits without trying to be understood. No long speeches, no final explanations, no emotional bargaining, just a quiet decision. That restraint communicates inner authority. And inner authority is what women instinctively trust. When you remove yourself calmly, you force her to confront a version of you that does not need her approval. This creates a psychological gap. In that gap, respect grows. Because respect lives in the space where control ends. She can no longer predict you, manage you, or emotionally steer you. You have stepped outside the emotional contract she assumed you would always sign. Most men believe closure comes from conversation. In reality, closure comes from alignment. When your actions align with your values, you don't need permission to move on. That alignment is felt, not heard, and women feel it deeply. It signals that you are not emotionally chaotic. You are not driven by impulse, you are driven by principle. This is why peaceful departure lingers in her mind far longer than dramatic conflict. Conflict gives her a story. Peace gives her a question, and questions echo. She wonders if she misjudged you, if she underestimated your strength, if she pushed too far. These thoughts don't always lead to reconciliation, but they almost always lead to respect. There is also a shift that happens within you, and women are extremely perceptive to it. When you walk away without resentment, your energy changes. You become less reactive, more deliberate. Your words carry more weight because you no longer use too many of them. You listen more. You tolerate less. This recalibration makes you stand out. Women don't fall for men who try to prove their value. They fall for men who act as if their value is already established. Peaceful withdrawal is one of the clearest ways to communicate that belief. You are not punishing her. You are protecting yourself. That distinction matters. Another uncomfortable truth: many women don't realize what they had until it stops trying to stay. Effort can become invisible when it's constant, but absence reframes effort as presence. She begins to remember how you made her feel safe, seen, or understood, because those feelings are now missing, and missing feelings create emotional weight. Walking away also prevents resentment from poisoning your memory. You don't become the angry ex. You don't become the villain in her narrative. You become the man who left with grace. That role is powerful. It preserves your dignity and keeps the emotional door neutral, not hostile. And whether she reaches out again or not, something irreversible has happened. You have trained yourself to choose self-respect over emotional chaos. That lesson stays with you. It sharpens your standards. It raises the quality of relationships you allow into your life. Women sense this evolution almost immediately. This is the paradox. The moment you stop trying to be valued is the moment your value becomes undeniable, not through absence alone, but through the calm certainty behind it. Walking away peacefully is not weakness. It is clarity in motion. And clarity is one of the rarest, most respected traits a man can possess. There is a reason peaceful men leave the deepest impressions, not because they were perfect, but because they were unshakable. When a woman senses that you are emotionally solid, she feels something she can't easily name. It's not excitement, it's not drama, it's safety mixed with awe. And that combination is powerful. Most relationships don't end because of one big mistake. They erode through small moments of imbalance, when one person overextends and the other pulls back. When you finally walk away without anger, you interrupt that erosion. You refuse to become smaller to keep something alive. That refusal is felt as strength. Female psychology responds strongly to emotional restraint, not suppression, but mastery. A man who can feel deeply and still choose calm action communicates that he is not ruled by emotion. He uses emotion as information, not as a weapon. This is a level of maturity that many women crave, especially after experiencing volatility with other men. When you leave peacefully, you also demonstrate something rare: trust in yourself. You trust that you will be okay without answers, without validation, without closure delivered by another person. That trust radiates. It signals that you are not searching for someone to complete you. You are inviting someone to walk alongside you. This is why women often remember the man who walked away calmly more vividly than the one who stayed and fought. The fighter becomes noise. The peaceful man becomes a reference. She compares future experiences to the standard you set, not consciously, but emotionally. You showed her what emotional adulthood looks like. Another layer of respect comes from how you treat her in your exit. No insults, no blame, no attempts to wound, just honesty and distance. This disarms defensiveness. It prevents her from rewriting the story to protect her ego. She cannot easily frame you as wrong when you were kind, clear, and composed. Men often think that being emotional will make them relatable. But relatability without boundaries becomes familiarity, and familiarity without polarity kills attraction. Walking away peacefully restores polarity. It reestablishes you as a man who operates from principle, not from emotional hunger. There is also a mirror effect that happens. When you choose peace, she is forced to see where she lacked it. When you choose dignity, she is forced to see where she compromised hers. This is uncomfortable, but it breeds respect, because respect often comes from comparison, not persuasion. Your silence after leaving is not a tactic, it's a consequence. You are no longer available for emotional processing that costs you your center. That absence teaches more than any conversation could. It teaches that access to you is earned, not assumed. And women respect what they cannot take for granted. Peaceful departure also future-proofs you. You don't carry bitterness into the next connection. You don't drag old wounds into new dynamics. You arrive clearer, stronger, and less reactive. This makes you more attractive to emotionally healthy women and less interesting to chaotic ones. That filtering alone elevates your life. Understand this. Respect is not always loud. Sometimes it shows up as a pause, a hesitation, a moment where she thinks twice before crossing a boundary with another man. You may never witness it, but your calm exit planted it. You became a silent teacher. And perhaps the most important shift happens inside you. You realize you don't need to be chosen to be worthy. You don't need to be understood to be valid. You don't need to be chased to feel significant. That realization changes the way you walk, speak, and decide. A man who leaves peacefully doesn't lose himself in endings. He carries himself forward. And that forward motion is felt by everyone he encounters. Women sense it immediately. It's not arrogance. It's grounded confidence, and grounded confidence commands respect without ever asking for it. The final truth is this: walking away peacefully is not about the woman at all. It never was. It is about the man you decide to become when no one is watching. Most men are shaped by reaction, by how others treat them, approve them, or withdraw from them. But respected men are shaped by decision, and the decision to leave calmly is one of the most defining choices a man can make. When you choose peace, you stop outsourcing your identity. You stop waiting for someone else to confirm your worth. That internal shift is subtle, but it changes everything. Your energy becomes quieter, but heavier. You don't chase attention anymore. You attract respect because you are no longer hungry for either. Women sense this immediately, even if they can't explain it. They feel the difference between a man who needs connection and a man who chooses it. Need feels urgent. Choice feels powerful. When you walk away without resentment, you communicate that you are not driven by fear of loneliness. You are driven by alignment with your values. This is why some women come back months later, not with drama, but with curiosity. Not because they miss the relationship, but because they miss how they felt around a man who was centered. And whether you accept them back or not becomes irrelevant. You are no longer operating from the same emotional level. You have outgrown the version of yourself that stayed too long. Walking away peacefully also rewires your standards. You become less tolerant of emotional inconsistency, less impressed by words without action, less willing to negotiate your boundaries. This makes your future relationships healthier, not because you control them, but because you choose them wisely. There is a quiet confidence that forms when you know you can leave and still be whole. That confidence shows up in how you listen, how you speak, and how you handle conflict. You don't rush to fix. You don't rush to explain. You observe, you decide. That pacing alone sets you apart from most men. And here is the part most people never talk about. When you leave peacefully, you allow the relationship to end without poisoning your memory. You remember the good without being consumed by the bad. You carry lessons instead of wounds. That emotional cleanliness is rare, and women feel safe around men who have it. This is why respect often comes after the ending, not during the relationship. She sees you clearly when you are no longer trying to be seen. She understands your strength when you are no longer trying to prove it. And whether she ever tells you or not, that understanding stays with her. But the greatest respect you gain is internal. You look back and realize you didn't abandon yourself. You didn't beg for what should have been mutual. You didn't trade your dignity for temporary comfort. That self-respect becomes the foundation for everything that follows. So here's the question I want you to sit with. Honestly, did you walk away because you were afraid of losing her? Or because you were committed to not losing yourself? Write your answer in the comments. I read them. If this spoke to you, like the video, subscribe for deeper truths like this, and share it with a man who needs to hear it, especially if he's struggling to let go peacefully. Because the man who can walk away in peace is the man who is never truly left.